Welcome back, my people. It's your girl Stella. Across America, ordinary citizens are fighting back against giant AI data centers, being forced into their communities by millionaires, tech corporations, and politics whom seem to care more about profit than people. And honestly, can you blame them? Imagine living in a quiet town your whole life. I mean, your whole life, then suddenly massive industrial buildings showed up overnight. Your water starts turning brown. Can you imagine? Your electronics bill keep increasing day by day. Your nights are filled with non-stop machines, human and artificial day nights, standing through your doors 24 hours a day. Also, tech companies can train AI machine. This is not science factor anymore. This is happening right now in places like Gorings, Texas, and Washington. And the crazy part is most redemption never asks for it. There is a proposal, AI data center project so massive that people said could it could consign so many electronic more powerful than the entire state itself. Think about think about that. If a second thought in a second thought, family are being told to conserve water, farming and struggling through thoughts, but billionaires dollars corporation shows how have unlimited access to resources. How is that fair? Regard people are expected to sacrifice while the West keep expanding their empires.
People to do because people are voting against these data centers. People don't want these data centers in their area. People are showing up in mass to protest their city councils into not approving these data centers. And sometimes even the city councils will vote against the data center, and then the data center will sue and end up getting the right to put their data center wherever they want anyway. This is what happened in Michigan when they voted against the data center. The people behind the data center sued the town and ended up getting to build their data center anyway. So what do they expect people to do? Because I'm not going to be surprised when people start showing up to where these data centers are being built and putting sugar in the gas tanks of all the equipment on board.
What's happening in Utah right now is we think over 90% of the protesters are actually not people that live in Utah or Box Elder County. They're being bussed in.
Data centers going to be a very hot item.
But data centers come with big costs, from light and noise pollution to the environmental impacts to the potential rising costs of energy bills. These facilities put extraordinary demand on the power grid.
And this is how Walton County voted in the 2024 election. 72% went to the Republican, the orange buffoon. 72%. There's a trend happening here. Now, AI is here. It's not going anywhere. But I don't understand why they can't do something kind of like what China just did. Watch this video, and I'll be right back.
China just switched on its first ever green power direct supply project for data centers. In Zhongwei City, a 500 megawatt solar farm is now feeding clean energy directly into one of the country's largest cloud computing parks. 6 of China's top 10 computing companies have already set up operations there, and one firm reports saving $14.6 million a year on electricity alone. When a 1.5 gigawatt wind farm comes online by end of year, the full project will generate 4.3 billion kilowatt hours annually, cutting carbon emissions by 3.65 million tons. This is Beijing's direct answer to the AI power surge. More compute, less carbon, and a new infrastructure blueprint for the intelligence age.
So why can't they find ways to make these data centers not impact the environment, not cause residents problems? I don't understand with all the money these people have. But yet China could do it. This is wild, y'all. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Remember, diversity equal power. We can change the world when we work together. Protect black women. Every day I wake up, I go, what the fuck? All I do all day.
I don't know what the government expects people to do because people are voting against these data centers. People don't want these data centers in their area. People are showing up in mass to protest their city councils into not approving these data centers. And sometimes even the city councils will vote against the data center, and then the data center will sue and end up getting the right to put their data center wherever they want anyway. This is what happened in Michigan when they voted against the data center. The people behind the data center sued the town and ended up getting to build their data center anyway. So what do they expect people to do? Because I'm not going to be surprised when people start showing up to where these data centers are being built and putting sugar in the gas tanks of all the equipment on board. lighting the data center on fire, going in and just cutting cords inside of the moving equipment and things like that, showing up and stealing resources from the place, lighting more stuff on fire. And they're gonna act like this is such terrorism and blah blah blah, but no, the people tried to tell you they didn't want this. The people tried to vote, the people tried protesting, and the rich people were like, we don't care what the people think. So I'm not going to be surprised when the people take matters into their own hands and make these data centers too expensive to build. Because I hate to tell you, you start destroying heavy equipment and they're going to have a real hard time justifying the cost of these data centers.
Hey, my name is Ansley. I wanted to come out here and show you guys firsthand what is happening in Coweta County, Georgia. Here in Coweta County, Georgia, Georgia Power is forcibly taking people's homes, okay? They have no choice in this matter. As you can see behind me, these are the power lines, and this is my childhood home. My childhood home is being taken by Georgia Power. They are going to bulldoze this entire property to the ground. We don't have a choice in this. They are going to be expanding these power lines. Why? For the data centers. All of this is for the data centers. And you may think this might not affect you personally, but what happens when they come for your house next?
I love a good FAFO moment, and it's even better when it's in my own backyard. A small town just south of St. Louis, Missouri just fired their entire city council. The city council of Festus, Missouri just approved a $6 billion data center in light of people in the city adamantly opposed to it. They had no answers, no transparency, just vibes and corporate promises. City residents blatantly asked the city council, who's running this thing? What is it going to do to water, the land, our property values? And the city council basically said, trust us. When residents took action, they voted out all 4 members of the city council who voted in favor of this data center. Gone. Bags packed. See you later. This is what happens when politicians forget who they work for. You don't get to greenlight billion-dollar projects next to people's homes, ignore their questions, and don't expect consequences. Kudos to Festus. This wasn't a congressional or presidential race, this was a local race. And these residents said, you work for us, act like it, or you're out.
Hey, so 2 really important things. Data centers are producing a humming noise that is so loud that surrounding neighborhoods can hear it and people are losing sleep over it. Also, data centers are raising temperatures in the surrounding neighborhoods by multiple degrees. I need you to understand how crazy that second one sounds, because a single data center is geoengineering a literal heat hub around the surrounding neighborhoods. And in the summertime, when heat stroke is a concern, according to one study, for every 1 degree it goes up, the risk of death is 2.5% higher. Finland and Sweden have already been harvesting the heat from their data centers for a decade now. They've been using it to heat people's homes. And yet I can almost guarantee you the US is not going to do a thing about this, even when people start to die as a result of it. The humming is crazy too, because that can very much be fixed. They can set up structures to reduce the sound of this, and they're just not going to, because it's the government and Trump is just aggressively pro-AI and needs to get it out as fast as possible because he has investments in it. When I tell you I have yet to see a positive thing come out of these AI data centers, I'm not kidding. I don't think there is a single benefit, and it actually just continues to get worse.
Watch this.
Pine Island will soon be home to a data center. Google is the owner. It's just the latest chapter in this new frontier dividing communities across our country.
AI data centers are unpopular, and while they do create temporary construction jobs, those are not the kind of jobs that bring lasting financial benefits to local residents. The long-term jobs that they create are pretty minimal, like around 100, and most of those jobs will be given to transplants with technical expertise, not to local residents. And in exchange for a handful of jobs and some property tax revenue, they drive up energy costs, cause both noise pollution and environmental pollution, and use huge amounts of water. One data center in Utah is projected to need more power than the entire state currently uses. And here is how that community feels about it.
Borrow 100,000 naira. Repay in 45 days. Repayment amount is 118,000.
Most communities here in Minnesota also feel pretty strongly against building these data centers. So how do they get built? Well, most of the time, because the primary hurdles to building these data centers occur at the local level, developers have been making local government officials sign non-disclosure agreements when discussing development plans. That means that for many communities, the first time they hear about these projects and their potential impact on things like energy costs, noise, water quality and availability, etc., is at the public meeting where they vote to approve the project. Because of these NDAs, even if community members were given the opportunity to ask questions, the local government officials often can't answer the questions in the first place, because if they do, they risk being liable for violating the NDA. And because they are signing these agreements in their official capacities, the liability likely extends to the local government itself. In other words, local government officials are signing non-disclosure agreements that prohibit them from communicating to their constituents what they are doing on behalf of their constituents. And if they violate those agreements, the damages would likely be paid out from the constituents' own tax dollars. A lot of politicians these days treat elected office as if once they're elected, they can just do whatever they want. They'll say things like, well, my constituents trusted me enough to elect me, so they trust my judgment. And I'm sorry, but that is not how representative governments are supposed to work. Elected officials should be elected to continually represent the will of their constituents. Even if the official personally disagrees, if the majority of the community want you to vote no on a data center proposal that will directly affect their lives, it is your literal job to vote no. Now, there is a pair of companion bills currently in the Minnesota legislature that would address this immediately. The Senate version is Senate File 4379, authored by Senator Aaron McQuaid, and the House companion version is House File 4077, authored by Rep. Emma Greenman. If either of you are watching this, shout out, big fan, love the bill. This bill, if passed, would void all currently executed NDAs regarding data center projects and would prohibit NDAs like them in the future. Right now, it is stalled in the House Committee on Judiciary, Finance, and Civil Law. Who stalled it? The usual suspects. Here are all their names and the districts they represent. If they represent you, maybe give them a quick call, let them know how you'd like them to vote, and remind them that they represent you.
My hometown is building the largest data center in the world. And normally, like when people say something like this, you'd be like, oh, that's a really interesting fact. Did you know that my hometown, with the exception of a single season, has been in a drought since 1997? Do you know what data centers need? Water. The data center that is being built outside of Amarillo, Texas, in Cass County, is going to be 5 miles on each side. 5 miles on each side of the complex. Yeah. And, you know, if Amarillo, Texas were just a place in the Panhandle, most people wouldn't care, except it's also a place that gets very, very hot. Sure, you get a couple of years where you're going to get a big snowstorm, it might freeze, whatever, but most of the time it's just super fucking hot and dry. Do you know where Amarillo gets its water? Sure, some of it comes from the reservoir at Lake Meredith, but the majority of the water that Amarillo and the surrounding Panhandle uses comes from the Ogallala Aquifer. That's right, an underground water source that stretches across the United States. That's where most of the water comes from because there isn't a lot of groundwater or rainwater. So this data center is going to be pulling water from the Ogallala Aquifer, a data center that uses more power than the entire state of Texas combined times 2. A data center that uses more power than 38 states. And they're going to build it in one of the hottest, driest places in the nation.
What's happening in Utah right now is we think over 90% of the protesters are actually not people that live in Utah or Box Elder County. They're being bussed in. And so people live in Utah aren't stupid. They see this happening and they realize, why am I letting people who don't even live in my state make decisions for me? And I don't think it's going to work out for them. But there are professional protesters that are paid by somebody. I don't know.
I am first generation American. I am Iranian American. Every time Iranians would hit the streets, protest women's rights, protest human rights, protests for living conditions in Iran, Iranian officials would just get on TV and say this: these are paid agitators. These are paid protesters. This is coming from outside of this country. You're stealing from us. We can't afford to eat. We can't afford to live here. paid protester, fake Iranian. And we watch that from over here and we're like, oh, how shameful. How could they say that about their own citizens? And then I see Kevin O'Leary sitting in his nice SUV saying the same exact thing. It is so crazy that the people of Utah are showing up and protesting you stealing their water and their energy. How crazy. Thousands of protesters paid. Bro, please tell me where I can find that check. In this economy? This is how stupid they think we are. That's why they keep using 40,000 acres, because most Americans have no fucking idea what that looks like. That's larger than Manhattan. Are you out of your mind? That place is gonna use more electricity than the whole state of Utah in one day. Oh my God. Same playbook, bro. One's desert chic, the other one's Hobby Lobby core. The only difference is the flag, a slight shade of skin. And if you're living in New Hampshire watching my data center videos, I hope you remember this video when you show up on the streets complaining that they're poisoning your water and giving you artificial sunlight and making it impossible for you to live. These free state fucks who carpetbag their way into this state are going to unironically call you a paid protester. It's time to buckle up, friends.
We're in a friggin' drought and you're not gonna ban data centers? New Jersey is in a drought and some parts are in a severe section. You know what else us New Jerseyans are dealing with? An uptick in data centers. In case you don't know, data centers use water and in a lot of cases clean drinking water for some evil villain reason to cool themselves down. And our governor, Mikey Sherrill, puts this message out about how we need to use less water. Which of course, everyone pitch in, I recycle my cans with the best of them. But hey Mikey, you maybe want to take care of the giant computers using all the drinking water first. Across the country, people have been fighting back against data centers, New Jersey included. Not only do they cause energy costs to skyrocket, ours went up 20% because of data centers, but yeah, it's a little rich to be told I gotta shower less when the thing's pumping out this slop apparently needs our H2O. I am so sick of this personal responsibility bullshit. Sure, we can all use less water, but my long showers aren't causing the climate crisis. Look at this hair. She needs it. It's the oil companies drilling. It's billionaires with their stupid private jets. It's the AI data centers. Stop blaming me and do something about it, people in charge.
Residents are packing city, cancelling meeting protesting, begging officials to slow down and listen. But many fears the delicious are already men behind the closed door. Some local leaders reportedly signed the NDAs that stop them from even warning that public about what those projects could bring. That's why people started losing their trust in them. Because once citizen feels like democracy no longer works for them, anger grows faster immediately. And some residents say their water began contaminated after the nearby data central explosion. Others watched their families' home got used to make room for new power infrastructure. Imagine growing up in a home your parents built, only to see it destroyed so calmly. Process AI prompts faster. That hits different meanwhile. Billionaires and tech executives keep talking about innovations and the future. But those future are we talking about here? Currently not the working class, family losing their peace, water, land, and sleep because it distracts them from sleeping quiet and calmly. And look, technology itself is not the enemy. Most people use technology energy every single day. But there is a difference between innovations that help society to cooperate, expansions that treat communities like disables. That is the real issue here that we are talking about.